Hope it is a good afternoon for you. It's been a beautiful fall day. I know fall isn't technically for a day or so, but yeah. It's usually days like today that you'll find me saying things like, my favorite time of year is spring and fall. And why not? The temperatures are mild during the day, cool at night. The sun still shines bright. I'm Pastor Lou Kilgore, pastor here at the High Mountain Presbyterian Church in Franklin Lakes, New Jersey. That's our physical location for the place we gather in faith. We also have another location, which is 200 Squalbrook Road in North Haledon, where our other part of our ministry is, which is our community school, where we have child care for infants, and then we also have care for toddlers, and then 3-year-olds and 4-year-olds, and now we are launching a remote learning center as well. We have a ministry in that school. Is that we work very hard to create lower costs. It's a hard world right now. I'm not playing a violin for people who don't want me to. I'm just saying it's a hard world. When I was a young pastor making very little money and had 4 children, I don't know what we would have done. My wife at the time was also working, and we were able to use the church's preschool, and because I worked for the church, we didn't have to pay what would have been over, $1,200 a month. And that was just for 2.5 hours of preschool for the kids. The days have gotten worse. The cost for someone to take care of your child, if it's reliable and quality and in a good, clean space where you can feel comfortable about going off to work and knowing that your child is not just left somewhere. So it's been part of my heart and has been a contagion for the heart of the leaders of this church and the members of the church to participate in this activity. Some churches just rent their facilities out to private preschool companies who run the businesses, and then they pay rent. This is different. This is our business. We've invested now over $250,000 in renovations on the property. We do it. We have a state-of-the-art infant care center that now has 15 toddlers and infants in it. We have fabulous staff who do what they do because they love to do this work. That's what a ministry is. And we try to pay them fairly, but we also try very hard to keep the costs for families low. So as a result, the community that's growing around our school are people of like situation. And they're finding their home away from home for themselves. They're meeting friends. They're meeting some wonderful, wonderful teachers and caregivers. I'm saying all of that because I think I told you yesterday, I am getting ready to go away with my wife for 2 weeks. We're going to take 2 weeks off. We need to do it, and sometimes we take time off and we staycation. We've done that many times. This particular time, we are going to try to relocate out of the area. We're going to go to a place where the COVID is very low, and we can go out to the woods and the lakes, and we can just rest and read and have some time of rebuilding and recouping as we go into the fall. I don't know what the fall is going to hold. I haven't known anything about what the next day was going to hold for our school, for the public schools, for our jobs, for everything. I don't know. And I'm not saying I don't know in a pessimistic way. I'm just saying I don't know. I will be willing to take one day at a time, but I'll be better prepared for it if I get a chance to go away. I like to read mysteries, things that aren't full of theological concepts and the struggles of ethics and all the rest of that. I like to take a break from that and do some sheer entertainment reading. Who did it, you know? So I'll read a blockbuster book or two and sleep in, stay up late, do the things that hopefully will lead to some restoration of my sense of calm, and we can do this. That's not to say that I have had tremendous support for everything that has happened or hasn't happened in the life of this church. It's been wonderful. I'm hoping that as we get into the fall and we start to figure out how we reinvent what we do. There's a sort of a cookie-cutter formula for, oh, you're a church, well, this is what you do. You have this, this, and this, and this. But we'll have to reinvent it a little bit. And my heart is especially tuned to making sure that the inroads and the commitments we have made to people who are elderly and sick and not able to get out of their house, what we used to call shut-ins, are not shut in anymore. And my commitment is to keep that pathway open, to keep that road paved through this technology. I'm excited that when I come back, we're going to have another new enhancement on our technology, and it may allow us to do a little bit more of in-person instrument playing, gathering in a sense, and maybe we can even figure out how to have an audience present and still be doing everything that we do online, so the audience you can come and watch or participate in the service here, or you can watch and participate in the service at home, and it'll be the same experience. That's going to be my lofty goal when I get back, and I'll have the energy for it then. I didn't get around to asking you, now that you arrived in my office, how are you? What's on your mind? What's happening for you in this change of seasons? And I don't know, I always think sometimes when I ask that, maybe I should stop talking. There's an intentionality that is required, I think, to keep our sanity. And the intentionality needs to be to stop, listen, to our hearts, to how we are, just because that's what we need to do. I often try to talk about what I think are the spiritual disciplines, if you will, of what I think of as Christianity. There was a period of time in church history where they were trying to define what Christianity really was. What is it? There was some fringe craziness going on, and people wanted to say, well, that's not Christianity. And so there was a rule, an interpretive rule that was invented, and it was called what the Christians believed everywhere and all the time. And that should become the core or the charisma of what we say is the Christian faith. The marginal things, the splinter things, they can be there, but that we just say, what is the core? In Greek, they refer to it as the charisma. What is the charisma of our faith? And the question went around, what have Christians always believed everywhere, all the time? So I like to think about pieces of a charisma. And to one extent or another, Christianity borrows its discipline also from the Jewish faith. And at the heart of the Jewish faith and the heart of Christianity is this concept of Sabbath. And you say Sabbath and it sounds very, religious-y. It sounds very churchy, or it sounds very like Sabbath means rest. And from deeply embedded in the hearts and the minds of the ancients in their conversations with God about how to survive on this planet, it became clear and it became encoded and written down both in the Hebrew tradition, in the late centuries of the Jewish tradition, and in early Christianity, and then even still today somewhat, although we live in a very different world that seems to have, lost this. Rest. Sabbath rest. I like to think about these chats as a kind of mini Sabbath rest, because the idea was that in order to not let life overwhelm us, or to just destroy ourselves and our ambitions, every person needed to plan into their lives proportional rests. There should be a time of rest every day, not sleeping, but resting every day. And in that resting, it is a time of reflection, like these 15 to 20-minute chats every day. No prescribed thing that you had to do, but just stop. Look around, think, pray, and then if one does that every day, then one day out of every 7 days, the whole day should be given to rest. And as Jesus clarified in the middle of all this time, it wasn't because God somehow had a test to see, would you do what I told you? It was the Sabbath rest of one day of rest every 7 was understood as what it was going to take for us to have lives that ended up having equality, joy, and love. This was what we wanted, but without a day in which we could stop other driving behaviors, we would never experience it. I had a man who ran an electrical contracting company in my first church, and when I went to his house in his office for the contracting company, he had a big sign up for his employees that said, "Don't be so busy making a living that you forget to have a life." And it was an important mantra in his life. My grandfather, too, he was a farmer, and farmers can work themselves to death. You can work from before the sunrise till the sun sets, and you can believe you have every motivation to have to do that in order to do all the things that you need to do. But my grandfather and my grandmother, as Presbyterians, had worked into their lives that every afternoon, about 1:30, they were not Mexicans, but at about 1:30 they rested. My grandfather would nap every single day at 1:30. And then on Sundays, on the farm, it was essential services only. They milked the cows and put the milk in the cooling tank. And that was it. No other work was to be conducted. Sunday afternoons on the farm were fabulous times in the summer, full of swimming in the ponds and building straw forts in the barn and shelling corn and having corn fights and fishing in the pond. Just fabulous, fabulous luxury of no work will be done on Sunday. And I'm not a legalist. It doesn't matter what day. The original tradition was just take one day out of 7 and set it aside to live your life, that you're earning doing all the work and all the energy and everything. Don't be so busy making a living that you forget to have a life. And then the Sabbath idea went further. And that was that in some practices, mostly of the Hebrew faith, it carried over to Christians somewhat, but that 1 week, 7 days out of every year, there ought to be a Sabbath week. You see Christians, they go on retreats and they try to take time out, you step out of the rat race, you step out of industrial important work, and you even let some work go that needs to be done in order that you don't lose your perspective and you don't lose your sense of humanness and your love and the softness of joy and all the things that come with it. 1 week out of every year. And this, if you're retired, I know a lot of people who are retired who don't have any Sabbath rest. They're motivated too much to do the things that they always wanted to do and all that. That's fine. But there's still a different quality to a Sabbath declared to say, nothing is as usual today. I'm going to do different things. And then the fulfillment of the Sabbath rest, it only exists now today in education, the sabbatical. The sabbatical was incorporated into the life of education and educators, that every 7 years of teaching, you needed to give the teacher a year off to go learn, to go back to school, to go reset their vision so that their teaching could be relevant and full of joy and full of life and not driven like slaves. In the highest expression of this belief of how important rest and resetting and reflection were and are to a life of faith, I don't know that it ever actually happened, but in societies that were sort of guided by Jewish law, where the synagogues were the politicians, there was a goal. And the goal was that every 7 times 7 years, every 49 years, there would be a year of Jubilee. A year of Jubilee. Where everyone would stop right where they were. The cool thing was all debts would be canceled. I still think about that. All debts are canceled. All property returned to its original owners. If your family had been foreclosed on and you'd lost your house or you'd lost your land, and in the sabbatical year, in the year of Jubilee, everyone returned home to their homestead land. It was a year of celebration. I don't think we've quite accomplished that here. I think something of this COVID shutdown has sort of led us up to it. Truthfully, there are lots of people that will tell you in the first couple of weeks anyway, with the kinds of accommodations that were made for loans being moved out of the way and foreclosures being stalled, that there was a kind of a breath of fresh air in the middle of a COVID air that was dawning on us. Now, I think we're way past that now. But at one point in one of my churches, I had the privilege of marrying a Japanese couple. They were here because his Japanese company, Okonomasu Goshu, was working here in New York, and he had come to New York to put in 2 years in the United States for his company, and his wife came with him. And she wasn't his wife when they first arrived, not as an American. They wanted an American wedding, so I did their wedding for them. And what I learned was that in Japan, I don't know if it's still true, but in Japan, when a man and a woman, or when a couple gets married, the first year of their marriage, they do not work at all. Not at all. They have a year. That honeymoon is a year, and they're not allowed to work. And the community cares for them. People give them money, they give them food, they do things to take care of them so that they can start off their life not with the great big high, chunky, work-driving goals that can be soul-stealing from human beings. No. They start with rest. They travel. They visit all their family. They enjoy each other. And they look forward to the beginning of their life 1 year from when they're married. Rest, and the importance of rest, is built into our religious practices. So, my prayer for you, my devotion for you, maybe it's because I feel like I'm heading off to try to get some for myself, is that you'll get the rest that you need, the change of scenery, the diversion that will help you to look at your life maybe a little bit from a distance, think about if there are changes that need to be made, or just think about enjoying and discovering what you have. That you will have rest. That you will have the rest you need. Now I know some of you, too much rest is a problem. There's issues of boredom that go on in people's lives. And so I'm not ignorant of that. I'm just saying that sometimes we need to name what is ordinary and a regular pattern of our life and then make an effort to try to change it so that we can look at it from a different perspective. So that's it, my friends. It's been a good run. We've had a few technology interruptions, but I'm going to say goodbye to you now for 2 weeks. If you're not listening live, I hope that you'll still catch this up so that next Monday you won't be hunting around for me, but maybe you'll find this and it'll tell you where I am. For 2 weeks, I'm saying God be with you. I pray for you daily, I do, and I hope that you'll find continued blessing of God in your lives, and then come back and see me. Come on back in and let's have a chat. 2 weeks from Monday. I'll be looking forward to it. God bless you, my friends. Bye.